Everybody, this is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on October the 13th in the year of our Lord 2025. I want to start off with some daily news appetizers. Let's go ahead and get this going.
Peter, one of the people who NBC News has fed into this by calling Nicholas Roski a woman. This was the headline from NBC News, and I don't want to forget to bring this up. This is the headline from them. Just in, they said, on October 3rd, when the sentence came down, a woman who pleaded guilty to attempting to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh 3 years ago was sentenced to more than 8 years in prison. That's the headline from NBC News. That is the headline. No. This is not a woman. This is a man. A man identifying as transgender who tried to assassinate Justice Kavanaugh because he was pro-life. NBC News, as they always have been, are despicable lying hacks. And they are partly responsible, by the way, for acts of violence committed by leftists who have spent the last decade imbibing on these lying propaganda headlines. Thank goodness for X, though. This is one of the best community notes that I've ever seen that was populated under this and this fake news NBC headline. It said, context needed. The individual in this case is a biological male, Nicholas Roski, referred to by attorneys as Sophia Roski. However, the case is still under the legal name of Nicholas Roski. And then, this is the brutal part. I absolutely love how savage X is. NBC, April 2025, man who had gun and knife, referring to Nicholas Roski. Fast forward to NBC, October 3rd, a woman who pleaded guilty. So what's that? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Oh, 6 months. 6 months. And NBC News changed the sex of this man. NBC News had
Peter Doocy raised the question of heaven again with Trump. This is a very interesting ongoing thread with Trump. He's got real doubts he's going to get in. He clearly believes in heaven. He was raised Christian and going to church on the Upper West Side, and with Norman Vincent Peale as his pastor. Power of positive thinking. And he asked him again today. You would think today of all days. And Trump, too, even on a day like this, clearly has doubts, which almost suggests a touch of humility. What's going on? The pigs, they're flying. Watch this.
You had talked a couple weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly an Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made life a lot better for a lot of people.
Really incredible. He wouldn't say that if he weren't actually thinking about it. Trump, he really doesn't lie. Like, he lies the way politicians lie, but this isn't a lie. You can tell that he's genuinely been thinking about it, as everyone does as they get later in the years.
I'm a scout. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm an interdisciplinary major. My primary thematic focus is decolonizing academia and public knowledge systems, and my secondary thematic focus is biocultural and linguistic futurity. What I focus on is the promises that the institution has made and also the emergence of indigenous ways of knowing and being. I feature in a lot of stuff like language revitalization or the emergent vitality of languages.
I have no idea what she just said. Does anybody have any idea what she just said? Because all I heard was a chick who has spent like umpteen years in school, but who still doesn't know what a male or a female is, and who probably took out like $150,000 a year for a liberal Mad Libs degree that she's going to demand the rest of us pay for in like 5 years when she's living in some big city and can't find a job and has no idea why. And meanwhile, there is a janitor at a Best Western in Kansas who makes a more meaningful contribution to the world than whatever that was.
When you married a Kennedy, you were not marrying an actively political Kennedy at the time, right? Bobby was a
correct.
lawyer.
I actually, when I met him, I asked him if he was ever, had a desire to go into politics, and he said no. He said he felt like he could achieve more as an environmental attorney.
Yeah,
that's not. So he could go after big corporations, big companies, without worrying about a political party. So I felt good about that.
Yeah.
And then
No Hollywood actress is like, how can I get more politically involved in a way that will cause all sorts of consternation in my life?
Right. I know.
Of course. And your career has been going so well. I mean, I'm a huge fan of yours, by the way.
Thank you.
Before you married Bobby.
Thank you.
I've long been a Curb fan. I love the show. I know Larry David is not in love with my side of the aisle, but I don't care.
Right. It's funny and
it's so clever.
Right.
And I always knew that it was, and you get into it a lot in Unscripted. That's, I assume, why it's called Unscripted. But I didn't realize how loose it is, like how much free reign you're
There's
given.
no script.
That's terrifying.
Well, it would be if you did not have a background in improv.
So the media has had to admit what an accomplishment this is. It's been very fun to watch. Like, they're so angry about it. They're just like, begrudgingly, they have to be like, it's a huge win. Never seen anything like it. All right. And then here's Christiane Amanpour. I mean, truly, you can watch the TDS coming out of her ears as she says the following. Watch this.
And I think for sure, people who start to talk to the hostages who've only just been released will find that it will take a long, long time for them to recover physically, but also mentally. It's been a terrible, terrible 2 years for them, because not only are they there, you know, they're probably being treated better than the average Gazan because they are the pawns and the chips that Hamas had. Now Hamas has given up all its leverage, by the way.
Sure. It was a day at the park for the Israeli hostages who were actually starving to death, who were in underground tunnels, who had for weeks and months, in some cases, hoods over their heads and were beaten and abused repeatedly, who had to watch their loved ones die, whose loved ones had been killed in their arms, whose babies died. I'm sure it was a really wonderful experience, Christiane. What the hell is she saying?
Just absolute scum of the earth. And I don't say words like that often. They were starved. They were tortured. The women were sexually assaulted routinely. They were all beaten. They were tied for days and days on end. You could see the evidence of the torture on the arms of the returning men and on the women. Just disgusting. And Megan, that's who our legacy media is. They are the stenographers of terrorists.
That's right.
She's literally running cover for Hamas.
One of the most consequential.
Democrats are all of a sudden pretending like, what's Antifa? Like, we've never really even heard of that. It's not even a thing.
This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa.
Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. There is no group.
It's not even like far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Compared to right-wing extremists, Antifa-linked violence is rare and limited.
It isn't an organization. It is a in many ways mythology.
It's not like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, you know, sort of defined terrorist organizations with leadership.
No, it's not like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, because there were 34 Proud Boys arrested after January 6th, and some of them were not even in Washington, D.C. I don't believe there has been any Antifa members, and there is an Antifa because they reported on it during the mostly peaceful riots while buildings and cars were burning behind them. There have been zero, to my knowledge, Antifa members arrested.
That leads violence.
It's not a highly organized movement. It's a moniker. It's not a unified group like the Proud Boys are.
Things like Antifa.
Who pays for their signs? Who pays for their banners? Who pays for their flags?
For things that are thought up.
It's all in this guise of going after Antifa, which is nothing. There's no organization called Antifa.
Nobody's a member of Antifa because it doesn't exist.
Oh
they are just declaring into existence something that doesn't exist.
There is no Antifa organization, so maybe that's good for social media. But it really is non-existent.
They exist on the internet in chat rooms and in 4chan and Discord and places like that, where they run discussion boards, trade tactics, documents, things like that. But none of them are called Antifa.
They're on Wikipedia. Go look them up.
All right, and that's just an example of how we are being lied to every single day, multiple times a day, by the mainstream media. And that, folks, is why I have MERTECH.com daily news update. And that, folks, is why I offer you my daily news wrap up right here, or my daily news report. We're on episode 1714. This is the live stream you're looking at. Let's go ahead and jump into this and pause this. Hi, Debbie BS. I'm glad you could join us. Okay, let's slide down here and hit the show more button and open the description box. We have information from Black Conservative Perspective. We're on episode 1700. Pause that, as I said. Rubin Report, C-SPAN, got some good information from C-SPAN, and X22 Report. But before we get into that, I do need to give a shout out here to Shelly Peterson, just started following my channel. Kenneth55 just started following my channel. Marge Rattle just started following my channel. And Ketch Aston just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1713 from last night. Thank you very much, Debbie BS. John Perez, Debbie BS, and I got Big John Perez twice commented on my episode 1713 from last night. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 498A, 498B, and 498C. So thank you very much for your comments and reposting my videos. I greatly appreciate that. Let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Boom. There you go. And incidentally, folks, I have one of those little thumbs up icons down here right below the video that you're watching. So if you could scroll down and click that thumbs up button, that would be fantastic. I would greatly appreciate that. Okay, let's see what Black Conservative Perspective has to say regarding fired woke MSNBC host MELTSDOWN over Stephen A. Smith calling out Ghetto Democrat for attacking Trump. Okay, let's check this out. And I hope this video starts playing. That would be fantastic. Waiting on Rumble to catch up to me here. This is a Rumble video. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds or more for the video to actually start playing. But in the meantime, folks, if you don't mind, if you could give me a thumbs up if you're not following my channel, here we go.
I think he has made mistakes.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this. People tried to talk about the mental acuity of Joe Biden. And as someone who was able to interact with him, I never questioned his mental acuity. But come on now. Come on.
I want to be clear that, law enforcement isn't to prevent crime. Law enforcement solves crime, okay? That is what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to solve crimes, not necessarily prevent them from happening, per se.
You can wave all the flags you want to, but I am telling you right now that the most unpatriotic people that we have in this country are MAGA and this president.
Because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes. He is.
Boy. So we got to talk about this little rant here from Stephen A. Smith against Jasmine Crockett, the ghetto black Democrat who honestly gives liberal black women a very, very, very bad reputation. Okay, she acts stereotypically unprofessional, hood, ghetto. And I think a lot of upstanding, decent black folks are tired of it, right? We're tired of being represented by individuals like this, okay? And Stephen A. may be one of these black people that's sick and tired of the shenanigans from some of these liberal black women like Jasmine Crockett, okay? Because he is going to rant against Jasmine Crockett, particularly her attacks against President Trump that really serve no purpose to actually get anything accomplished, right? Or to do anything of substance or of value. Because ultimately today, Jasmine Crockett is not there to legislate. She is there to instigate, right? That's what she's in Congress for. And Stephen A. has, picked up on that. And he is giving his thoughts on Jasmine Crockett that has triggered some black liberal women, and I want to talk about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
When I point to a Jasmine Crockett, it's because here's what I know. All I ever hear her doing is going off about Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, can I tell you what my belief is? I have no desire to be a politician. Let me reiterate that. And I appreciate House Leader, Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking to me in the way that he did by saying that I speak with the frustration of the American people, because you damn right I do. Let me tell you what gets me annoyed. And I hope Jasmine Crockett is listening to this. By the way, she's welcome on the show. When you go on national television and you calling the President of the United States out of his name, and you're being all disrespectful, as a representative in this country, do you believe the citizens of Texas sent you there to do that? They don't like him either. I'm talking about those who voted for her in all likelihood. But because he is who he is and he is in that position, they expect you to go to Capitol Hill and figure out a way to maneuver yourself through that terrain to work in a fashion that's going to facilitate getting things done on behalf of your constituents. That's your job. That's your job.
Yeah, but she doesn't see that as her job, Stephen A. See, that's what you don't understand. She's not there to legislate, okay? She's there to be a social media star, right? That's what she's there to do. She's there to fundraise. She's there to be an influencer. That is what she's there for, okay? She's not there to pass any legislation or to work with anybody at all to get anything of substance done for her constituents, right? You understand, Stephen A. That is what she's really in it for, right? You're giving her too much credit to assume that she wants to actually help people. That's not what she's doing this job for.
Excuse my language on Sirius XM, but it ain't your job to say he ain't shit. He ain't worth a damn. That's not your job. Anybody can do that. He's a deal maker. And if you figure out a way to make him look good in any way, quid pro quo is something he lives by. He'll reciprocate. If you know that, why you can't figure it out? Is that hard?
Well, low-key, I've been kind of saying that for a long time about Trump. I'm like, I don't understand why these Democrats don't understand how to deal with Trump, because, like, obviously, Trump is a very, again, businessman type of guy, right? He's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, right? You make me look good, I'll make you look good, we look good together. That's the thing I like about Trump, right? He does not have a zero-sum worldview, right? In the sense that it is all or nothing, right? Either you win it all or you lose it all. And I think President Trump is kind of like, hey, we can all win, right? I may win more than you win, right? But we all win, okay? That's better than both of us losing if we all win. So, you know, when it comes to Democrats and certain topics like, you know, illegal immigration, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't work with the president. Why would you not allow the president to help crack down on crime in your city, right? Like Democrats oppose that as if it's bad, right? It's bad. The federal government say, listen, we're going to give you resources for free to make your city safer. Why would you not want to do it, right? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So it's stuff like that where I'm like, this is why Democrats are losing. Because of their opposition to Trump. Let's oppose Trump no matter what, even if it makes no sense, right? Even if both parties could win. Democrats and Trump could win on the issue of crime, right? Democrats can prove that, hey, listen, we can be tough on crime in these liberal cities, and that will help the establishment Democrats actually continue to win over the progressive Democrats. When it comes to Trump, Trump will get the win because obviously he looks like the law and order president, right? And he's willing to work with Democrats to crack down on crime. Everybody wins in a situation like that. But, again, unfortunately, we live in a world where, again, Democrats don't stand for anything except being against Trump. Now, apparently, you can't have a nuanced opinion about, you know, Jasmine Crockett and how Democrats deal with Trump if you're black, right? If you're a black man, apparently you're not supposed to criticize black liberal women, politicians like Jasmine Crockett, because Fire, ex-MSNBC host, lost her mind over Stephen A. going off on Jasmine Crockett and telling the truth. Take a look.
I've said what I've had to say about Stephen A. Smith in my book anywhere I can. I don't have a lot of use for him in the political dialogue. I think that, you know, there are individuals who he matriculated with at Winston-Salem State University that are extremely disappointed about the man he's become.
it's so disheartening to me. It's frustrating, one, because anytime we speak on this, it's like we, man haters and all this. But I feel such confidence in black men. I've never bought into the idea that all these black men are voting for Trump. Like, they vote overwhelmingly Democrat. We're pretty much in line with each other. What you all are saying is no, they are, and the data shows that there have been inroads among black men. I want to ask why, because it is frustrating to me, and it feels heartbreaking, to be honest, because we are impacted by this system as well. It's not a matter of who's impacted worse. We're impacted differently. We sit at the intersection of being black and being women. And so when men are frustrated with this system, it feels like they fight us. And I would put Stephen A. Smith in that category too. I'm mad at y'all for having joy. I'm mad at y'all for having success. I'm mad at y'all for surpassing us on college campuses. And so it's a small sect of men that are so angry and hurt that they're willing to align with the people who oppress us. What am I getting wrong?
What you're getting wrong is this idea that men are so hurt by the progress of black women that this is why some men are starting to lean more Republican, right? Which, again, they're throwing Stephen A. in this category, even though Stephen A. voted for Kamala, right? Which shows you that they're really out of touch with reality in regards to where Stephen A. is on the political spectrum. Like, Stephen A. is a liberal, right? I'm not even going to say he's a moderate. He's a liberal, okay? But he probably is, again, closer to moderate than he is progressive, okay, for sure. And he's into the race stuff, right? But that's not enough, okay, for these black liberals. You have to support the Democrat Party 100%. You can't criticize the Democrat Party at all, especially black politicians, or else you're selling out. Because what?
Okay, and then he's right. He's absolutely right. I mean, it's like follow the leader, like sheep, blind and they unbelievable. Tell me how Donald Trump has oppressed anyone other than illegal aliens that broke the law and other criminals in like Washington, D.C. that are breaking the law and taking advantage of law-abiding citizens by stealing their money, stealing their cars, beating them up, shooting them. Is that the oppression that they're talking about? The oppression of the criminals? I don't know. But great information and great analysis by Black Conservative Perspective. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what we have next. And that would be some information from the Rubin report. Woman admits to Donald Trump's face that she had TDS and then says this stunning admission. Well, let's check this out. And again, we're waiting for Rumble to kick in. I don't understand what the holdup is. So give me a chat, folks. Let me know what you think. Something that you'd like to see. Here we go.
Welcome back, and now it's time for a segment aptly named The American Renaissance, and a very special guest this week ahead of his tour of Australia. I'm joined by the host of the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin. Dave, great to see you as always. Welcome to The World According to Rowan Dean. Now, Dave,
it's good to be with you.
It's great to have you, Dave. We have to start with the peace deal. Obviously, the naysayers on the left would have never believed this was possible, but here was the president proving them all wrong.
To find the criminal conspiracy.
Okay. I'm just given. I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East. and they're going to need me pretty quickly.
So, Dave, many a slip twixt cup and lip. Celebrations rightly around the world, particularly in Israel and the States. But what could go wrong?
I'd rather talk about what could go right, but I suppose we could do what could go wrong. I mean, what could go right is that peace could break out. I know that would be pretty rare in that part of the world. What could go wrong? I mean, everything could go wrong, right? I mean, this is an area that has ancient hatreds, that has borders that are redrawn, every couple decades, and we could figure out a million ways that this could go sideways. My suspicion is the next couple days will be pretty smooth. The Israelis will get their remaining 20 hostages back, and it's a little unclear how many remains of hostages who are no longer living. The Palestinians will get some prisoners out. They will get the Israelis to withdraw a bit out of Gaza. And then we will see. I always consider myself a world-weary optimist. So I'm not out there just screaming joy right now, but I am overjoyed at the opportunity for a better world tomorrow. And I will say this is 100% credit to Donald Trump on this thing. I mean, he decided that America will lead the world again. And when America leads, other countries are happy to follow. It's called peace through strength, and it's really the only way that anything good will happen in the world. So it's a very good day. Yes, we can figure out all the things that'll go wrong and probably some things that we can't figure out, but right now it's a good moment. I want to just play you a clip which fascinated me and amused me, and probably amused you no end as well. But have a listen to this reporter confessing that she suffered from Trump derangement syndrome, but now she's a recovered TDS sufferer. Have a listen.
By the way, it's much better to not have TDS. I'm happier, I'm healthier, more successful. I even think I got a little more attractive after I got rid of my Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah.
Now, Dave, I want to ask you a few things about this, because you and I have never suffered from TDS. You and I were right there at the beginning on the Trump train, and we talked about that. Although you were a long time ago, I guess a progressive young Turk, but you saw the light very early on, and we've discussed that in the past. But how popular is Trump becoming with former lefties? Are we going to see a shift from that lot, as we saw from that amazing reporter, who even looks better, according to herself?
Well, first off, it's not a coincidence that when you start realizing that individual rights and autonomy over your body and not having the government do everything for you, when you start focusing on that, you do actually start looking better. So I don't know who she is, but it wouldn't surprise me. They also always tell you that there's a lot of, we see these stories in the States, if you're working out, going to the gym a lot means you're a MAGA Republican. It's like, okay, yes. That also seems pretty good. As for the lefties that are waking up, look, the Israel thing seems to have drawn a line, but if you live in the West, you should broadly love the West. You should love the ideas of freedom. You should love the ideas of nation states. What Donald Trump has done is created the widest tent political movement in my lifetime. I'm 49 years old. I have no recollection of a movement that wasn't really political. I mean, that's the thing. Donald Trump, yeah, he has the religious conservatives, and he appointed conservative judges that overturned Roe v. Wade, so the conservatives love him. He's also the first first-time president that ever was for gay marriage. Not even Barack Obama was. So what Donald Trump has done is hold many positions at the exact same time.
Dave Rubin, always great to chat to you. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay, great information, I think. Let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from the Rubin Report. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what's next with C-SPAN. Speaker Johnson holds news conference on government shutdown. Now, he gave this news conference at 10 o'clock this morning. And I have the link to it right here, directly on C-SPAN, but has a lot of advertisements and then, mulling around before he actually starts speaking and questions afterwards. I recorded strictly his comments from the beginning of where he talks about the shutdown, the Schumer shutdown. And this is important information, folks, because what Schumer and Jeffries are out there saying is it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. all the Republicans voted for this continuing resolution. It's the Democrats that are voting against it. So how in the intercourse, WTF, can this be the Republicans' fault? I don't know. Let's see what Mike Johnson has to say.
Yet again, we have a split screen. And on the other side, there's currently ongoing bad news here because of the costly political games that are being played by Democrats here in Congress. We're now on day 13 of the Democrats' Schumer shutdown. This marks the third week that Democrats have blocked paychecks to our troops. They've blocked pay for 2.2 million federal workers, and they held critical services that the American people rely upon in limbo. At least they've tried to block those checks. We are so very grateful that President Trump, again showing strong leadership, has stepped up to ensure that our troops are going to be paid on October 15th, while we wait for Democrats on October 15th, while we wait for Democrats to stop holding the country hostage. Truly grateful for a hands-on commander-in-chief. I spoke with the president at length before he left on this trip to the Middle East, and he and I are both so frustrated that Democrats are perfectly happy to do all this damage while they play political stunts. We can hardly believe that they're willing to go along with this on the gambit and the false narrative that they've created. And as you all know, here in Congress, Republicans have voted over and over to reopen the government and end all this pain. We passed a clean, nonpartisan CR that would pay the troops and the TSA agents and Border Patrol and the rest of our federal workforce. We did our job. We had that vote over 3 weeks ago now, and the bill is still sitting in the Senate, where Democrats have now voted 7 times to keep the government closed. I brought our handy chart again today because they were out breathlessly over the weekend in media outlets, Democrats in Congress, including Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, claiming facts that are simply untrue. They claim that this didn't happen, but this is exactly what the vote tally is. And on September 19th, the House passed the clean resolution that got everyone paid and kept the services flowing, and they voted against it. Every Democrat but one in the House voted not to pay the troops, not to pay TSA, Border Patrol, air traffic controllers, and all the rest. The Senate Democrats then voted that down, and you see now 8 times total in Congress, Republicans have voted to keep the government open, and Democrats have voted to close it, period, end of sentence. And why did they do this? Because they want to spend $1.5 trillion in new taxpayer-funded spending as a ransom for ending the shutdown. Not our talking points, this is in the record, and they filed it. No matter how they twist it, this is a clean, nonpartisan CR. It does not include new spending. It does not include partisan strings attached at all. And this is something, as we have pointed out over and over, that Democrats have supported repeatedly. In fact, 13 different times during the Biden administration. Even the liberal New York Times admits the obvious truth here. You have leaders on the Democrat side like Jay Johnson, who spoke out this week and said, end it, open the government, and then have these negotiations. We were always planning to do that, to negotiate on the other issues. Again, we have to be very clear, the shutdown did not have to happen, but every American needs to understand why it did. And I'll reiterate, I'll summarize for you very briefly again. What happened? It happened because while Republicans are working to ensure the American people are taken care of, Democrats are playing a political game. Unlike 2013, the Democrat Party is utterly rudderless. There have been times in the past where there were shutdowns. Democrats today have no leader, no vision, no direction. The party's at their lowest point in decades in terms of public opinion polls. And so they threw this Hail Mary pass. Chuck Schumer knows this. He reads the polls religiously. He knows his party is furious with him for doing the right thing back in March when he helped to pass a clean CR and avert a government shutdown. It was the right thing to do. He said so himself emphatically on the Senate floor. And that bill he supported is nearly identical to what we're offering today. The only thing that's changed is his personal political calculation. His consultants and his pollsters have told him he needs to show a fight to President Trump, even if it means hurting millions of American families. So that is exactly what Chuck Schumer is doing. He's determined that his own political survival is worth the irreversible harm he's inflicting on the American people. He's gambling with people's lives and livelihoods to appease the far-left Marxist base of his party so that he can keep his job. And make no mistake, this is bigger than Chuck Schumer. Democrats are terrified of their radical Marxist base. The ones who have been here for a while, kind of your father, your grandfather's Democrat Party, the remnant of those folks who are still here in the halls, they're terrified to show any willingness to work with Republicans or to work with President Trump, even when that would clearly benefit the American people. And everybody sees right through this. Meanwhile, Republicans are governing with common sense. In just the first 9 months of unified Republican leadership, we've cut taxes for hardworking American families. We ended the border crisis. We're ending the crime crisis. We're rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse in government, and now bringing an end to conflicts around the globe. And what have Democrats done? Nothing but distract. Now, I'll end on one very important note. Ending this shutdown is not a one-party exercise. Republicans do have control of Congress, quote unquote, but it still takes 60 votes to pass a funding bill in the Senate. All of this is the way the founders intended the process to work. Any Democrats who suggest otherwise are willfully misleading the American people. Chuck Schumer gave a speech on the Senate floor, I think it was on Friday, looks right into the cameras and said, Republicans are in control, and this is all on them. He knows full well that it takes 60 votes, and we only have 53 Republicans in the Senate. There's already a bipartisan majority in the Senate that supports our clean CR. There are two Democrats and one independent who caucuses with Democrats, 3 Democrat votes total who have gone along with Republicans and using common sense to keep the government open. We need 5 Senate Democrats now to break ranks and do the right thing. The only ransom here is the $1.5 trillion that Chuck Schumer is demanding from the American people. And you've all heard our Democrat colleagues demand that Republicans come to the table to negotiate. But as I've said time and time again, I don't have anything to negotiate with. We don't have any partisan policy riders that I can remove from the funding bill because Republicans didn't include any. It is a truly clean, nonpartisan short-term CR. They don't really want a negotiation. It's just a talking point. They're not interested in negotiation. Again, look at their counter-proposal. $1.5 trillion in new spending, $200 billion to use hard-earned taxpayer dollars to fund health care and other benefits for illegal aliens and non-citizens. And they want to give a $500 million to liberal news outlets through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting while cutting $50 billion from rural hospitals. These are not serious measures. They're not serious.
Okay, $500 million to PBS and these other liberal outlets, and they want to cut $50 billion from rural hospitals, and they're the ones that's moaning and groaning about health care. But the rural hospitals, bear in mind, are where normally Republicans live. So they don't want to fund those hospitals. Hell no. What are you thinking? No, let's not fund the rural hospitals. Let's pay for the illegal immigrants in major Democrat cities. That's what we want. And we're willing to let the servicemen suffer, the social working people suffer, women with infant children suffer through WIC. It's a food supplement program for women and infant children. No, let's let them suffer until we get the $200 billion for our illegals that, by the way, we're going to use to cast votes for Democrats this November and next November. Thank you very much.
Serious counter proposals, and they know that. They know they can't tell voters. The Senate Democrats cannot tell voters that they're willing to hold hostage funding for the nutrition of women, infants, and children in exchange for restoring health care to illegal aliens. Yep. So they want to do this behind closed doors.
Yes.
And you've heard Chuck Schumer say breathlessly, I just want the 4 leaders to get in a back room and make a deal. We're not doing that. We're not doing that anymore. We're getting back to regular order, and it's infuriating that that's what he continues to demand. Before Democrats recklessly shut down the government, Republicans and Democrats were engaged in responsible, open, bipartisan negotiations on the appropriations process. Republicans are eager to return to the actual negotiating table, to finish out full-year appropriations and do work on all the other matters before us, but we won't negotiate in smoke-filled back rooms, and we won't negotiate as hostages. Democrats in the Senate have been around a long time, and they'll remember this important plea, and I'll leave you with this thought. Listen closely to what I say here. Quote, there's only one way out of this reckless and damaging shutdown. Pass a budget that funds our government with no partisan strings attached. The American people don't get to demand ransom in exchange for doing their job. Neither does Congress. They don't get to hold our democracy or our economy hostage over a settled law. That's not how our democracy is supposed to work. That's why I won't pay a ransom in exchange for reopening the government. I'll always work with anyone of either party on ways to grow this economy, create new jobs, and get our fiscal house in order for the long haul, but not under the shadow of these threats, unquote. What I just read was a direct quote. Those are not my words. They belong to President Barack Obama. He was speaking there in 2013 when our government was shut down for 16 days.
Amazing.
This would be the third longest government shutdown in American history. That one would be. And my friends, if Democrats keep up their obstruction here today, this is where we're going to be headed. We're barreling toward one of the longest shutdowns in American history unless Democrats drop their partisan demands and pass a clean, no-strings-attached budget to reopen the government and pay our federal workers. I want every American to hear this clearly. What Barack Obama demanded then is exactly what Republicans are saying now. We will not allow the American people to be taken hostage over partisan demands. Democrats cheered on Barack Obama back then, and now they've flipped their entire position out of pure politics. It's now time for them to take their favorite president's advice, do what he said was right, pass the clean, no-strings-attached bill, and reopen the government. We're on duty here, and we can return quickly to legislative session as soon as you turn the lights back on, Chuck Schumer, and end this unnecessary hardship for the American people. Before I take your questions, I just want to give one word of thanks to the Capitol workers who are here today helping out even as they work without pay. There's a lot of dedicated folks who keep these engines running even when the Democrats are trying to turn them off.
All right, there you have it, folks. And the thing about it is, okay, that first vote was September 13th, and they keep talking 7 weeks. There's a deadline. And I believe that deadline is right around November 1st, somewhere between November 1st and November 15th. But the clock is ticking. And they're just sitting back, waiting for somebody to call a vote and see how it's going to go. Then, after the government opens up again with this continuing resolution, then they're going to start negotiating for the new spending bill. Okay, well, their time is running out for negotiations. So what, they're going to maybe go another week or two, and then there's only going to be like 2 or 3 weeks to negotiate for a brand new spending bill? WTF. If this isn't a WTF moment, I don't know what is. Unfreaking believable. Okay, let's move on here and see what we have to say from X22 report. Is episode 3750A, his financial information. China makes a move and Trump counters. Countries are shifting toward gold. Let's check that out.
Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they're trying to put a lot of pressure on the economy. And just the other day, we mentioned how Jamie Dimon says there's going to be a market correction. And this is reminding me of COVID. And I think they're using this shutdown to do pretty much the same exact thing, but it's going to fail. And now, when you add China into the mix, you could see that they're trying to push something very, very hard. And they're trying to bring the economic system down. But it's not going to work, because you have to remember one thing that's very, very important is that Trump and the Patriots, they are building the parallel economic system. And the parallel economic system is competing against the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank system. And every step of the way, the Federal Reserve system is going to lose, because the system is based on debt. The system is based on devaluing the currency. The system doesn't benefit the people. Trump's parallel economic system benefits the people. It removes the devaluation of the currency. It removes the confiscation of wealth. It removes control and enslavement of the people. This is what they don't want. And they're going to try everything they possibly can to try to stop Trump. But in the long run, it's all going to fail. And you can see that Trump, he is now countering them. Think about it. We have the shutdown right now, which means a lot of the departments, they're not operational. One of them is the economic reporting. And we know that the Federal Reserve, they want to use the shutdown to say, listen, we can't make a decision if we should lower the rates, keep the rates, or raise the rates. We can't make any decision, so we're just going to keep the rates steady. Remember, I do believe that the Federal Reserve does not want to lower the rates. Yes, there are those individuals that are controlling the Federal Reserve, and I do believe their messages do not lower the rates. And you can see that every step of the way, Trump is now boxing them in a corner. Now, they're hoping that there's no report. This way they can use that as an excuse. But it looks like Trump, he is going to be countering this. And this is going to put the Fed in a very, very tough position. And you could see that China is trying to put a lot of pressure on the United States. And Trump has now countered China. And it looks like China is now backing off. So this is what Trump put out on Truth. He said, some very strange things are happening in China. They're becoming very hostile and sending letters to countries throughout the world that they want to impose export controls on each and every element of production having to do with rare earths and virtually anything else that they can think of. And even if it's not manufacturing in China, nobody has ever seen anything like this. But essentially, it would clog the market to make life difficult for virtually every country in the world, especially for China. We've been contacted by other countries who are extremely angry at this great trade hostility, which came out of nowhere. Our relationship with China over the past 6 months has been a very good one, thereby making this move on trade an even more surprising one. I have always felt that they've been lying in wait, and now, as usual, I've been proven right. There is no way that China would be allowed to hold the world captive. But that seems to have been their plan for quite some time, starting with magnets and other elements that they have quietly amassed into somewhat of a monopoly position. A rather sinister and hostile move, to say the least. But the U.S. has a monopoly position also, much stronger and much far-reaching than China's. I have just not chosen to use them. There was never a reason for me to do so until now. The letter sent is many pages long and details with great specificity each and every element, and they want to withhold from our nations. Things were routine or no longer routine at all. I have not spoken to President Xi because there was no reason to do so. This was a real surprise, not only for me, but to all the leaders of the free world. I was to meet President Xi in 2 weeks at APEC in South Korea, but now there seems to be no reason to do so. The Chinese letters were specifically inappropriate in that this was the day that, after 3,000 years of bedlam and fighting, there is peace in the Middle East. I wonder if that timing was coincidental, depending on what China says about the hostile order that they have just put out. I will be forced as President of the United States of America to financially counter their move. For every element that they have been able to monopolize, we have two. I never thought it would come to this, but perhaps, as with all things, the time has come. Ultimately, through potentially painful, it will be a very good thing in the end for the USA. One of the policies that we are calculating at this moment is a massive increase of tariffs on Chinese products coming into the United States. There are many other countermeasures that are likewise under serious consideration. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. So isn't that interesting how China, right after the peace negotiations with Gaza and Israel, they decided during the shutdown to make this move. Now, I do believe they're trying, I'm talking about the deep state players, because you have to remember, everything was supposed to be moved out to China. China was going to create the solar panels, the wind turbines. They were going to be the center of the financial world, while Europe and the United States, everything was going to be taken from that. And it looks like they're making their move, and they're going to try to push their agenda. That's what they're trying to do. And I do believe they're trying to make the markets come down. I think this is why Jamie Dimon came out saying that it looks like there's going to be a correction in the market. Now, think about this. This is what happened during COVID. Right before COVID hit, we had George Soros come out, because they just had a meeting in Davos, and he says there's going to be a market correction because the market is overheated. And then what happened? They started to sell off, and they tried to bring the market down, and it didn't work. So Trump right now, he is countering China, because you have to remember, we have the leverage. We also now are creating the rare earth minerals that we're going to need. I mean, yes, Trump is putting everything into place, especially out in Alaska and many other places. And you can see that China, they are now panicking. And I do believe they're trying to make this move. So what did Trump do? He just countered what the deep state, what the central bankers are trying to do. And this is what Trump said. It has been learned that China has taken an extraordinary aggressive position on trade and sending an extremely hostile letter to the world, stating that they were going to, effective November 1st, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exemption and was obviously a plan devised by them years ago. It is absolutely unheard of in international trade and a moral disgrace in dealing with other nations. Based on the fact that China has taken this unprecedented position and speaking only for the USA and not other nations who were similarly threatened starting November 1st, 2025, or sooner, depending on any further actions or changes by China, the United States of America will impose a tariff of 100% on China over and above any tariff that they are currently paying. Also on November 1st, we will impose export controls on any and all critical software. It is impossible to believe that China would have taken such an action, but they have, and the rest is history. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Now, think about this. He said they were planning this years ago. Was this part of their plan to bring down the economic system worldwide? Most likely, yes. Are they doing it right now during the shutdown? Absolutely, yes. You have to remember, from the very, very beginning, the central bankers, they wanted to bring down the economic system no matter what. If Trump was in office, Trump wasn't in office, it made no difference. This was part of their 16-year plan to bring us into the Great Reset. And you can see that they're making their move now during the shutdown. Now, I don't know if you know this, but gold has gone mainstream.
Okay, he's going into a commercial here, so let's go ahead and skip past
And
that.
just helping investment decision. And I do believe this was done on purpose to try to shift the economic system. And you have to remember, since Trump has been creating the parallel economic system and using tariffs as a weapon to counter everything the central bank is doing, it's making it very, very difficult for the deep state players, because you have to remember, they never expected any of this. They never expected the parallel system to grow the way it's growing. They never expected Trump to use the tariffs the way he's using them. They thought they would have all the leverage when Trump came into office. And since Trump created the parallel economic system, and he can use that money to fund the government, which basically he can as the parallel economic system becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. We don't need the Federal Reserve. We don't need to borrow the money. We have the external revenue coming into this country that can be used to fund the government. Remember, when we shift everything, there is no debt ceiling. There is no shutdown. The only reason we have this is because of the Federal Reserve. And they put it into place to convince the people that there are controls. There are no controls. It's an illusion that they have created. But since Trump has done this, what has happened? It looks like China is backing off a little bit. Because who is this going to really affect? It's going to affect them. The Kobesia letter on X put this out and said, China appears to soften their stance on recent rare earths export controls. China now says the recent change is not a full export ban. Applications that meet regulations will be approved, willing to engage in deeper dialogue, looks for global industrial and supply chain stability. Relevant impact of export controls is very limited, calls this a necessary defense action. China also added that they will take measures if the U.S. persists in raising tariffs. So now they're backing off a little bit. Doesn't mean they've backed off, but you could see that Trump's countermeasures, they are working. And as Trump continually moves forward in basically countering everything that they put into place for China, I'm talking about the central bankers, China, and everything. Because think about it. Why did they move everything over to China? Why did they specifically say, okay, China, you're going to create the rare earth minerals? Why did they place all these regulations in the United States so we can't produce rare earth minerals? This was all done on purpose. Same thing with oil. Why did they say, oh, listen, there's no oil drilling in this country? Why? Because we have to save the earth. But we could drill oil in the Middle East. We could drill oil everywhere else except here in the United States. It was done on purpose. So this way, the United States could be controlled. Yep. That's why it was done. Yes. And now you could see it is completely and utterly falling apart because Trump, every single day, is making more and more deals with countries and he is building manufacturing, and he's reteaching America how to build. Trump has announced a pact with Finland to build new icebreakers to expand the polar fleet.
Yes.
So he made this agreement with Finland to build 11 new icebreakers. And basically, they're going to teach the people here in the United States on how to do this, which means this is going to help America, just like with everything else that Trump is doing with manufacturing. And you can see the deep state players. I do believe that they're trying to use the shutdown to try to give the Fed some type of leverage to say we cannot lower the rates. Remember, Trump wants the rates lowered because, number one, it will spur the automobile industry.
Yep.
It will help the real estate market and every single market that is connected to these industries and many other industries, because it's just not these two. And you can see that they're saying, well, since there's no economic report, we really can't make a decision on the economy. We're going to have to keep the rates steady. And I do believe the deep state players, the central bank, the Ds, they're going to try to keep the shutdown going for quite a while. I think Trump is truly hoping that he's going to, that the Ds and the deep state players, the central bankers, they're going to keep the shutdown going past 61 days, because I do believe that is the magic number where he can drain the swamp. But again, the Ds, they want to keep it shut down as long as possible, because this will give them ammunition to bring the economic system down and try to put a lot of pressure on what Trump is trying to do with many other agendas. And you could see that Trump is now using all of this against them. And we'll be talking a lot more about that in the next report. But think about it. The central bankers right now, they're trying to stop the lowering of the interest rates, because they know once Trump gets the interest rates where he wants them, the economy is going to boom like we've never seen before, and everything is going to turn against the Federal Reserve, because everything that they're trying to do, it's going to show the American people that they were completely and utterly wrong. Just like they were wrong about the transient inflation, just like they were wrong about, hey, Biden's economy strong, just like they were wrong about everything, because again, they're not here to benefit the American people. So to counter the shutdown right now, it looks like the Trump administration will release a critical inflation report later this month. So basically, he's going to have the agency put out a report in regards to inflation. Why would he do this right now? Because he knows that he needs to counter the Federal Reserve. He knows that he needs to show the American people that, look, inflation is holding steady. There's no reason for the Federal Reserve to keep the rates where they are. They can lower them again. He's now trying, or he's going to counter everything the shutdown is trying to do. And this is not going to work out too well for the deep state, the central bankers. Now think about it. During the shutdown and everything that China is doing, we could see that there's one asset or one currency that is, and that's been around for 5,000 plus years or even longer, that is actually holding steady. And we'll be talking about that in just a sec. But you can see that there are more and more financial institutions that are now jumping on board with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, because I do believe Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, gold, and silver, they're going to play a major, major role in the new economy that is coming. Bitcoin Magazine put this out and said $8 trillion Morgan Stanley to allow their clients to invest in Bitcoin and crypto. And we're starting to see a lot of financial institutions, they're allowing the people to take their investments and invest in Bitcoin and crypto. Now, think about it. The deep state, the central bankers, they've been trying to stop people from investing in cryptocurrency because, again, they couldn't control it, not like gold. See, they used the paper markets for gold to control the price of gold, to drive people away. But they were having a much more difficult time with cryptocurrency because, again, they don't have the control over cryptocurrency. They didn't have the time to get control, so they tried to use the idea that only criminals use it to try to drive people away. But you can see at this point in time, it is not working whatsoever. And if you look at Russia, for example, the Russian deputy finance minister says an estimated 20 million people are using Bitcoin and crypto in Russia. He says we need our own infrastructure to have both economic and technological benefits. So I do believe in the future, what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of countries, they're going to be using crypto and Bitcoin. I do believe they're going to be using this for international trade. Are they going to have gold in their economies? Of course they are. Gold has been around for thousands upon thousands of years. It builds confidence, and gold is a hedge against everything the central bank has always been trying to do. And you can see that central banks across the world, they have crossed a symbolic line. Their combined gold reserves now exceed their U.S. Treasury holdings for the first time in nearly 3 decades. The crossover underscores a gradual diversification away from the dollar-denominated securities and toward hard assets. So you have to ask the question, why is the central bankers, why are they going back to gold? Now remember, here in the United States, yes, we have gold. In other countries, they keep gold in their central banks. Now, why isn't the central bankers, why aren't they ramping up on fiat currency? Because this tells you everything you need to know. Because, again, gold is the money. Their pieces of paper are not the money. They use that to trick you to think this is the currency that you need to use. But truly, when you really look at it, you could see that, once again, it's always been gold. After the end of Bretton Woods, soaring real interest rates and the rise of the petrodollar steered reserve managers toward U.S. Treasuries through the 80s and the 90s. In the 2000s, the dollar depth and liquidity reinforced that preference. Since 2022, however, heavy official gold buying has picked up again. 1,136 tons in 2022, a record, with 2023 and 2024 maintaining historically strong accumulation. The trend is even more striking considering that nearly 1/5 of the gold ever mined is now held by central banks. So the question is, why are they holding so much gold? Because they know that the end of the fiat system is coming. They know that there's going to be a transformation across the world. And once again, they know that the paper currency doesn't hold a value. And if you notice, since Trump has been placing tariffs on like China and many other countries, and he actually ramped it up on China, yes, the market dipped a little bit, but I do believe probably as the new week comes after Columbus Day, I do believe what's going to happen is you're probably going to, and China's starting to back off a little bit, you probably see the market bump up a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to skyrocket, but I do believe it's going to take a turn. Remember, the central bankers didn't want this to happen. They wanted the market to fall. Maybe it'll come down a little bit in the very beginning, but I do believe as time goes on, I do believe you're probably going to see it bump up a little bit. But think about it. Since something happened with China, what did we see? We saw the market go down. Bitcoin dropped a little bit. Oil went down a little bit. What is one thing that actually went up? When you really look at it, it looks like gold actually went up. And gold is hedging against everything. So this should tell you everything you need to know. And since now we have countries ramping up on gold, you could see gold is the currency. And I do believe Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin is very good to use. It's electronic. You can use it across the world. It's on a ledger. You can't really manipulate it that much. And you could see that I think having gold locally in every single country, using Bitcoin to basically transition the gold currency into Bitcoin, to use this as international trade and then back into your local currency if you like to. I think this is going to be very, very important moving into the future. But once again, you can see the deep state players, the central bankers, they were definitely trying to bring down the economic system with this announcement. They were trying to bring down the markets. I think this is why Jamie Dimon mentioned this. They were trying to stop the Federal Reserve from lowering the rates by having the shutdown. I think this is all connected. And I think Trump at this point is now countering everything that they're trying to do. And everything they're trying to do is not going to work. Remember, who has all the leverage? Trump, we the people here in the United States, we are the consumer. So basically, the consumer, just like anything else, is saying, listen, we're not going to go along with this. And if you're going to try to do this, well, we're going to tax you. That's pretty much what the tariff is. We're going to tax you very, very hard. Go ahead. Try to do this. Your sales are going to go down. We're not going to be using your rare earth minerals. We will then ramp up production in this country. It might take us a little while, but we will do it. And we will look at other countries to get this type of products. And you can see that in the end, any country that tries to go up against the United States, it is not going to work. And I think Trump is proving this every single time. And I think that Trump, with the new parallel economic system, the central bankers are having a very difficult time controlling the complete implosion of their economic system because they want to implode their system. Trump is stopping them every step of the way with the parallel economic system. And they're having a very difficult time because, again, he can run, I think, the country right now using the parallel system. I mean, is it going to be perfect? No. But he can counter a lot of the things that they're trying to do, especially with his tariff system that is in place, because he's proved, look, there's no inflation. And he's going to have a report that's going to be issued showing there's no inflation to counter everything the central bank is trying to do here. And in the end, the central bank, they're going to fold. And Trump and we, the people, are going to win once again. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.
All right. Great information. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from X22 Report. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up.
Tells you everything you need to.
And let me just jump over here. This is some information that I track as far as gold and silver and other mutual funds. Right here, this is gold. Right down this one right here. $4,146.50 today is what gold closed at. Pretty amazing. I remember it was just a few months ago they were talking about it hitting 3,500. What a great deal that was. All right. So, getting back here, these videos, I do want to remind you that these videos do come directly from the producers, okay? I want to go ahead and share a little bit of information here from Westwood One Sports. If you're an NFL fan, this is interesting information.
Hey football fanatics, are you ready for some primetime NFL action? Tune in to Westwood One for all the gridiron glory you crave.
From jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays. Don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood One.
You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on the Westwood One Sports app, on WestwoodOneSports.com via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports.
If it's the NFL, it's on Westwood One.
Okay, great information there if you're interested in that. Now, again, these videos that I share with you are videos that I've posted on Mertech.com, except for the C-SPAN. But if you want to see more information about that, right here on Mertech.com, okay, I do have various different pages here. One of them is my news sources. If you click on that, it's going to take you to you can contact your representative in the U.S. House of Representatives, your U.S. Senator, you can contact them. Also, I have on here C-SPAN. So that video that I shared with you, I came over here, clicked on C-SPAN, and it took me to C-SPAN's homepage. And right here's the video from Speaker Johnson that he gave today. So all this information is at your fingertips here at Mertech.com and Mertech on Rumble. I apologize for my son. He's up here. He likes to come up here while I do my video, and he fell asleep, and he's got some allergies or something, some hay fever, pollen in the air this fall, so I apologize for his coughing in the background. But here at Mertech.com, I do have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos, the kind of information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. Unfortunately, I don't have time to share all of this with you during my podcast, but I will have my daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30. So go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30. I've got over 60 videos in my playlist already of information that's dropped all day long. So please join me then. For the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.